Hey guys, I'm Tyler Mount, Tony-nominated Broadway producer, influencer, and social manager at NBC Universal. Welcome to Build Series. Today I'm joined by one of my dear friends, currently starring in Mean Girls on Broadway as the iconic Gretchen Wieners. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ashley Park. So, Ashley, this is a full circle moment for us.
It is.
Whenever I was starting my career, and your career had already been established, you were one of the first people to come onto my web series.
I know, that was so fun.
Right, and now we're here, and now you're a Tony nominee, which we're gonna dish all about in a hot second. But if you look at your career, you have run the gamut on Broadway, right? So you've done like Mamma Mia, the exact opposite. You went to The King and I. Then you did Sunday in the Park with George, and now you're playing one of the more iconic characters in movie history, which is Gretchen Wieners in Mean Girls.
In Mean Girls, right.
Exactly.
I was just talking about that this morning, actually. I think I was talking to Billboard or something, and I was saying that, you know, graduating as a musical theater major, I could think like the three things that you really want to do, the pillars of musical theater, are like a Rodgers and Hammerstein show, a Sondheim show, and then to create a new original character. And like, what better way to do it than in a Tina Fey musical? But
right, exactly. So because you've done so many different types of characters, I'm really curious, like, what
You're
is
like,
it?
are you schizophrenic?
Right, are you
what?
schizophrenic? A, but
Do you know who you are?
I'm unclear, but like, B, most importantly, what is it about a role that draws you to it?
Gosh, now it's really about, if I can find something really honest in that, I feel like whatever character, whether you're the villain or the protagonist or a supporting character, you have to find something that feels very correct in your spine with that character. Like for example with Gretchen, the first thing I heard was the song "What's Wrong with Me," and I immediately connected so deeply with it. And so I was like, this is a character that I know that I could play honestly, because 8 times a week, because in the theater we're doing the same story 8 times a week for different audiences, and so it has to always feel truthful and genuine, or else it's not artistically fulfilling, and it's not fulfilling for the people who bought the tickets either. So I think now I just look for stories that I'm really interested in telling and characters that I'm really interested in getting to know, because like these characters become your best friends because you're in their shoes and their skin and you're empathizing with them every single night.
Well, let's touch base on that specifically. Yeah. You are playing a character that is, one might say, legendary in pop culture.
Yeah.
In pop culture, right? So
absolutely,
you're sure you're originating a role on Broadway. This role has never been played on Broadway, but a lot of people come into the theater with very, very clear expectations of what Gretchen is, who the plastics are, what jokes are going to be told. How do you, as a performer, really balance giving people what they want, but also bringing Ashley and your originality to the role?
Yeah. I think, you know, what's funny is actually the experience with revivals is what's helped this process, because in some ways it feels like a revival, because you do have this story and these characters that everyone in this like generation really knows and really cherishes. And so you have to go back to it and look at the character on the page and say, this is exactly what I did with Top Tim and with Sunday in the Park with George too. And you say, who is this character? And kind of like rip them apart in that way. And so it felt like doing a revival in that sense. And also like, there's very basic, like I'm Asian, like Lacey was not, you know, our show takes place in 2018 and this was in 2004. And so, and also we're singing and we're dancing. And I think one of the cool things about Gretchen is it's one of the first times in our musical, without giving too much away, where it really does open up the story in a way of showing a different layer that might not have been there in the movie, just through song. And so I think it's really fun actually to do it every night, because so many people love the movie so much and they're not disappointed when they see the show, but they also get so much new stuff and new layers to the characters, which is really fun.
Right. I mean, like, I saw it this weekend for the first time and I'm still screaming. Like, it was so good.
But you just saw it this weekend?
I literally just saw it.
I
It was the
see
last show of the
after.
season I had to see. So I was like, thank God I'm coming to see you today. I had an excuse to go see it. So I am not kidding when I say I came in with preconceived notions.
Of course.
I got all of the jokes I needed to hear. But how Tina and the writers and Casey really make the show relevant to today, with nods to what's happening in the political climate today, how students interact socially today, was really, really, really nice for me. So let's go back a little. Let's take a few steps back, because as a Broadway fangirl at heart, these are the questions that I actually get really excited to ask, okay?
Okay, yeah.
So we know that Mean Girls is coming to Broadway. You as Ashley like clearly want to be in it. And then you eventually hear, oh my gosh, you booked Broadway. Tell me about where you were, what happened, how did you find out? Give me the dirty details.
Oh my gosh. You know, I had a very, I guess, unique experience with this one. It happened, yeah. So I got a call when I was in Dallas doing the Robin Hood musical, and I knew that just because I had, like, Taylor is one of my best friends, and so is Erica, and I knew through them that they had been going through this casting process, and they'd been doing readings and workshops, and at the time they were doing the readings and stuff, I was doing Sunday in the Park with George, and so it was very like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this show to come to Broadway, I can't wait to see what Tina Fey does with it, and I've never worked with Casey Nicholaw, so I was more excited for my friends that they got to be a part of this, and it didn't even occur to me that I could be a part of this or that I'd be considered for it, and I assumed that everything was cast. And so when I was in Dallas, it was the week before our opening night of Hood, and I got a call saying they would love you to fly down on Monday and come audition for Gretchen. And in my mind, I'm going, oh, they probably have a whole list of people. That's so, you know, I know that they're about to start soon for DC. So I actually at first said, I don't think that I could get on a red eye the night of my opening night of Hood and give them a good audition at 10 a.m. the next morning in New York. So, and I didn't want to, I was like, I can't go in front of Tina Fey and like do a bad job, so I'd rather not. So I actually decided to send a tape in and see if they, because with comedy, and I didn't know, I'd never heard any of the music, and I didn't know how much of it was going to be similar to the movie and not. So I didn't know if it would be a right fit. And so I wanted to see if, because it matters so much. It's new musicals is all collaboration, so it really depends on if the team thinks that you guys would mesh together. And so, long story short, I ended up getting reception from the tape and then flying in on that Monday. I actually came in for another audition as well. That I feel like I had more eggs in that basket. And I went in for that audition. I don't remember a thing. I remember getting in on my red eye. I stayed at our friend Jane's apartment. She was like, do you want to just like nap in my apartment for 2 hours? I was like, yes. I took a 1 hour nap. I just laid there. And then I went in and did this audition. And all I remember is at the end of it, like, you know, Casey had me do a couple different things. And at the end of it, I was like, can I just say fetch for Tina Fey once? And then we'll call it a day. And I was like, fetch. And then I left. And then I went to the other audition at the other place. And then I went and I sat with my friend Jenny Barber, who was my scene partner in Sunday Park with George. She was pregnant, and I hadn't seen her since I'd been in Dallas. And so we were at like the Smith, and I had a big glass of rosé in my hand, and I got a call from my agent like a few hours later and said that I got the part. And it was just so mind-blowing to me because in that one phone call and in those like 10 hours, my entire life changed. Like overnight. Truly, the trajectory of the next 2 years was going to change. And that's what's so crazy and awesome about this industry is like a week before, I had no idea that this would even be on the cards for me. Like I can't. Like
right.
I still haven't processed it.
Right.
You know, so that's what's like so awesome and cool. And like the coolest part about it. And then I called Erica, and then I called Taylor on my flight, because I was flying back to Dallas that night. And I called Taylor on the phone, and I was like, Taylor, you can't sit with us. And she was like, oh, you got, what?
Yes!
You got it? Like, you must be kidding. Like, it felt like I still feel like I'm being punked, like,
You're
constantly.
You're not. I saw you on Broadway. You're definitely in the show.
I'm definitely in the show, I guess.
Okay,
yeah.
so talking about things you can't believe, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We'll talk about Tina Fey in a hot second, because I'm really curious. But the elephant in the room is you got nominated for a small award. Tell everyone what it was.
Specifically the Tony.
Specifically
the Antoinette Perry Award.
The Tony Award. Yes, right. I'm very excited for you. You got nominated for many awards, but I'm specifically talking about the Tony Award. What many young people or people in the world aspire to do at one point in their life. So tell me, I had a very unique experience that morning. Because I was like one of the 20 people in the room where they
really
yes, and
wow,
top
Tyler.
secret. No. This is top secret. And I'm not telling it to anyone except for you, right? I was in the room, and the lady,
everyone else,
right? and the lady who was running the teleprompter ran the teleprompter really fast from top to bottom to make sure it worked. And I saw your name on it, and I literally was like, oh. Ashley!
Why didn't you text me? No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, that would have been tacky. So anyway, it's not about me, it's about you. The point is, you got nominated for a Tony this year. Tell me about how you found out that you got nominated.
You know what's funny is I was like, I called two of my best friends who aren't like super in the industry, and I was like, why don't we go for a walk in Central Park and we'll turn off our phones? And I would love to catch up with you guys also because with this like crazy season, I've neglected every friendship that I have because of our schedule. And and I think both of them knew that that was the morning of that, and they were so respectful and so excited to be with me, but also to distract me. And I will honestly, genuinely say that I think we were talking about face masks, and like at that point in the conversation, we had gotten our coffees and like juices, and I was like, oh my God, I have to show you this like face mask, and I pulled out my phone, and I had totally forgotten that that's what we were distracted from. And I think my premise was that I was going to be the same person before or afterwards, and I was more nervous and excited for my show. Like I was like, oh, like how is it everything's going to pan out? And I opened my phone and there was just a bazillion texts, and so I was like, okay, I guess something must have happened.
Right.
Yeah, and so. And I immediately, I FaceTimed my mom in the park, and then I think I just like wandered around the park for a few more hours and did all the phone calls and everything like that. And I was so excited for our show, and it was a crazy day because I think we were rehearsing for the Today Show a few hours into that afternoon, and so I got to see everybody, and Tina, Kim, we all gave each other hugs, and then that was the day that we went to go look at our billboard in Times Square. And I think that honestly, more than seeing my name in the Tony nominated list, it was the amount of like genuine support and text and love that I got from people, and people that I so admire, and like the relationships I'd cherished over the past few years. Like I think I like Kelly O'Hara texting was like "atta girl," and that's all she said. And Bart was like "about time." Like just like all sorts of people from all walks of my life, but especially during my like New York theater career. And I think that. That was the most special part of it, being like, oh, I don't feel like I belong to this community because of this award and this title at this point, but it really is because of the time and the work that it's taken to earn it, and the people who genuinely are supporting me from all walks of it now.
Right. Well,
that's what's so cool.
Well, I know I speak for the greater Broadway community in saying that you are so deserving, and I'm so excited. I'm screaming for you. So. You're not the only one who got nominated from the show. Your co-stars, Taylor got nominated, Gray got nominated.
Yeah. We kept trying to FaceTime each other like that whole morning.
Right.
And truly, I think me and Gray tried like 4 different times, and every time we would be like, hey, we didn't get a word out before like one of us had to be like, I'm so sorry, I have to take this call.
Yeah. Like sorry, someone's calling.
Yeah, I know.
And most importantly, Tina got nominated, but even more importantly, your show got nominated for Best Musical of the Year.
Yes, we got 12 nominations, which was the most, that was so incredible. Exciting.
And after seeing the show, it's very, very apparent why. So let's talk about one of your mini bosses, right? Because you technically work for Casey Nicola and you work for Tina Fey, right? So let's
Lauren Michaels?
Right, exactly. Let's talk about working with one of the most iconic female comedians of all time, Tina Fey. What has that process been like for you as a fan and you as a performer?
Oh my gosh. Well, something that you were saying about, is it hard to take on these iconic characters that everyone loves so much? And like the luxury that we have had as a creative team that really has been like, we're ready to support you in finding who these people are, and we're ready to do that together. Tina, I mean, people tell you, don't meet your heroes because they'll let you down. If Tina Fey is your hero, try to meet her and try to work with her, because she really is just like the best human. She is, she's so funny like as a comedian, but she's so funny in real life too. Like I love that she takes her work so seriously, but she like never takes herself seriously. She's always sending us like funny YouTube videos. She's always around. Like I love that she was like, I'm gonna do a musical, I'm gonna make a musical, and I'm gonna be there for it 110%. She's been there. There was, the funniest question for us in interviews, like throughout the process, was, oh, is Tina ever around? She was in every single rehearsal, and she was like, does that word feel funny to you, or does that, but she was so respectful of staying in her lane as the book writer, and really, learning throughout the process too, that it was so cool to see someone that I've held as an icon and a role model go through a process of learning as well. Because I think that's what we're constantly doing as artists, and I've learned so much from watching her throughout that. And so like she's just like the best. She's a mom too, and like her 2 kids like are amazing, and like watching her and Jeff work together too, like it's been awesome.
So my question is, knowing you, you are not a mean girl in real life. You are very kind. You are very sweet. You are not a Gretchen Wieners. How has it been playing someone completely different than yourself?
Well, I think the beautiful thing about Gretchen is, though, at least the Gretchen that we've made, is that she's like the every woman. So like the cool thing about this character is that like every person in the audience really relates to her, because who hasn't thought of like, what's wrong with me? Like, why doesn't this person like me? Or what's like the insecurities, the flaws. I think we all have that in our head. Like, I know I do. And so it's been fun to kind of like, it's like a little therapy every night, like being in Gretchen's head a little bit. But also, I love, like what you were saying before about how you connect with characters. I mean, one thing that really stuck out to me about Gretchen and I thought was really important in the movie, and I really wanted to stress in our musical, was that like, how she feels most honest to me is that Gretchen just really wants to be a really good friend. And like she makes a lot of mistakes and she tells a lot of secrets in doing so, but she just wants to please whoever she's with. And that's one of my biggest, I would say, like things I need to work on is I'm such a people pleaser. Like I can't stand it when someone doesn't like me. And so and I think that is exactly what Gretchen is too. And so it was so cool having Tina kind of hone into, like the script that I got at the beginning of my process versus the script that we have now has changed a lot in the wording, because Tina has really, she's so good at like writing for specific people and like the rhythms and their rhetoric and their pattern of language. And so she's really made a character that is so honest for me to play every night.
Now, without going too far into specifics or spoilers in case you don't know the plot or specifically how the musical ends, I loved seeing it because at the end, it is uplifting and it's poignant and it touches on a really, really impactful lesson and theme that I feel like, especially as a young person, but universally everyone can relate to. Can you touch on a little bit how beyond this idea of what Mean Girls is, why this show is so important in today's socially driven, politically charged world?
I think that the coolest thing, I mean, and not giving away too, but like, you know, with the ending and with like our whole show, I think the really running theme of that and the running theme in our world right now and in our community, it feels like, especially the Broadway community, is inclusion. I think that having, like even like at the Tony Awards, our producers are having every single person in the cast be part of the performance, like every understudy, every swing. And I think that that's something that we're missing in our world right now, and I love that like our North Shore High School is kind of symbolic of like the world at large, even though we're like having a great time and it's fun and it's quirky and it's you know, the best way into I think into people's hearts, and the best way to connect is through jokes and through music, and that's what we're doing. And so yeah, that running theme is like so important, and I think that they've done such a good job of needling that message through.
So my last question for you is super upbeat. Before we get to audience questions, and a lot of people look at Broadway because it's super glamorous. The idea of it is super glamorous, and you know what I mean? It's just funny, and it's super, super lucrative. You know what I mean? Like all of these ideas of what people have about Broadway, and it's all of this. Do you have a story or an example where like you would say it was the most embarrassing moment you've ever had on stage, specifically in Mean Girls or in another show that you've done?
My God, there's so many.
Right. So like we know Put Together Ashley Park, but I want to know, like, was there some time that I wish I had it on camera?
Oh my gosh, like all the wardrobe malfunctions, truly.
Oh, let's tell.
And it's not the wardrobe's fault. It's truly like my inability to walk in long skirts. And then I was like, oh my gosh, well, like I think I got this joke so much when I got cast in this. Like, we don't have to worry about the long skirts with this show. You're going to be in like these little mini skirts. And then like my skirt fell off during one of the dance numbers in DC. You know, like stuff like that. But I would say, you know what's funny actually is this photo was taken a week after I was cast. I flew back in from Dallas to take this. I had no idea. For some reason, it didn't. I was like, okay, we're just gonna take photos and do this commercial. I'd never like done anything of Gretchen before, like, besides the audition stuff. I remember Casey Nicholaw called me and was like, hey, so I know that you're gonna like be filming a commercial like as Gretchen, and you've never been Gretchen, but like let's just like figure out who this person is enough to. And then they came out with this poster, and I was like, I would have asked them to Photoshop it. Like, what? I had no idea that we were taking the poster photo right now.
And now it's here. It's plastered everywhere. It's in
but
Times
I
Square.
remember, me and Kate got really close throughout that photo shoot, and me and Taylor, of course, that was the first time we had been together as we were cast, and it was just like a week after being cast. I remember we were like eating like the fish. It was my first time like really hanging out with Tina, and like we were in these robes and these curlers, and I was like, what's going on? And like we were like drinking Diet Coke. It was like the most unglamorous
That's your life
thing
now.
ever.
It's your life now.
And also, I guess when we were doing, we did the Annie Leibovitz photo shoot for Vogue. Like, there's nothing that, actually, this is the best. This is the best non-glamour story ever. Like, first of all, we showed up that morning, and we were like, it's so an honor to meet you. And she thought we were the interns.
That is hysterical.
Because we were like, it's just like these wide-eyed, eager people. And then we were like, yeah, they were pumping Spice Girls, and we were like singing along, and they were like, you can sing along, but can you try to look like you're also posing? Because we were like, tell me what I want, whatever, and then we had just gotten back from DC, and we had all our leases had been up in New York before we had gone to DC. So we all came back basically homeless. All of our stuff was in storage units. And that was the day that we were all like, oh, we'll just stay in a hotel after the Annie Leibovitz before we all go home for Christmas or whatever. And I think that was the night of the tree lighting or something, because there was not a hotel in Manhattan open. Truly, we were we literally laid down in our storage units in Manhattan mini storage for 3 hours, phoning every hotel in Manhattan. We were we just shot for Vogue with Annie Leibovitz, and now we're homeless. What's going on?
Oh my God.
It was so.
You should have texted me. You could have stayed in my living room.
I know, right?
We
ended up staying with. But yeah.
Well, that is incredible. It is now time to transition to audience Q&As. Do I have a question?
Yeah. Hi, Ashley. Congratulations on
thanks.
everything. So my question is, what was your personal process of creating the new depth for your character?
My personal process? I think at first it was just to listen and be open to what everything was, and to not be just to be really open to what the songs and the pages and the script that I had been given. And then, just as I was saying earlier, just to really figure out what parts of it didn't feel it's tricky in a show with 10 principal characters. Not everyone is going to get a full arc, but everyone can have. I think for me, the big thing for me was I want Gretchen to have quality, not quantity. In terms of there are parts when I actually went to the team and I was like, I think we can cut this part of it. Gretchen used to have this trust fall that didn't really go with the rest of the arc of her story, and I was like, as we finesse it, I think it's my job to let them know when something doesn't feel honest in the groundwork. In DC, anybody who saw it there saw that Gretchen's character was a lot more about having crushes on boys and her relationship with different boys. And I thought, especially in this past year and especially today, I was like, I don't think the message I would feel, and the team agreed, appropriate giving every night is that a girl who is insecure, everything will be solved by trying to get a boy and them liking you back. That didn't feel right to me. And so I was much more interested in the relationships that we were and especially in having such close relationships on stage and off stage with my scene partners, really developing the relationships between the girls, and what happens to Gretchen when she grows up, that kind of thing. And I think that was what made the movie so special in 2004. It's one of the first films that ever did that and really got into the complications of what girls go through, and all the ugly parts of it too. And I think that was, that. And also the fact that Casey Nicholaw was like, you like to dance, let's make you dance as much as possible. Stuff like that made it easy to make it more of an original feeling piece.
Great question. Thanks so much. My next question right here.
Hi. So first of all, I want to say last night you were absolutely perfect. You're so good.
Oh, thank you.
I wish I saw K-pop.
Oh, the dramatist?
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah.
Sorry, I wish I saw that show. But my question is, Gretchen has so many good lines in this show, even in the movie as well. Do you wish you ever had lines from the other girls? Karen's lines are like ridiculous. Like, do you ever wish you could like trade lines with some girls?
Oh gosh, we were actually just talking about this the other day, because I do this thing before shows, these angel cards where people pick out a word of inspiration for the day to like apply for that show. And I think it was like right after the gymnasium scene, me and Kate were getting ready to go on. She was like, I wish like there was a day, like, I think she was talking about like the Actors Fund performance. She was like, I wish there was a show where we could all just like draw a name out of the bag and like play that character for the day. Because what's fun about our ensemble too is every ensemble member, Tina gave every single person a name, and everybody like kind of like a story, like the costumes, they are all very specific characters. And so I think all the time I'm like, we were like, what if like today, like I played this part and you played that part and everything like that. I think lines wise, I don't really know. I mean, I love getting to say the lines that I get to say. I think maybe Karen's stuff is like really funny too, like all of her punchlines. I mean, you know what? I actually would love Damien's lines. I think are so clever, and I think his jokes are like really like fun and like witty and snarky in a way, and like very honest. And I think that I wouldn't be able to pull off some of them, but I would love to like have my hand at those.
Yes, I love it. Thank you. And we have
There was one that was
more
Sorry.
question.
Yeah, keep going.
Hi, Ashley. I loved your performance yesterday at the Drama Desk Awards.
Oh, thanks.
I wanted to ask you, what was it like to transition from K-pop to doing Mean Girls?
Oh
and
my
if you
gosh.
feel like there was something that carried from doing that performance to playing Gretchen.
Oh yeah, that was the craziest thing I ever did, I think, because how it scheduled out was that even before K-pop opened, I was starting rehearsals for Mean Girls. So I think there was about 3 or 4 weeks of overlap where all day I was doing Mean Girls, and then I would go right to doing K-pop. And K-pop was, I think, the hardest physically show that I've ever done. And I think that both of them helped each other out, because K-pop is about, like, the character I played is someone who's super, so tired and so exhausted, but super revitalized by what she gets to do every night. And that's what I felt like every night, is that I was like, there's no possible way that I could physically get through this and sing these songs. And like every night it happened, and every night I got endorphins from it. And I think with Mean Girls, the first few weeks, the fact that I had to really lean on my scene partners and I was and the team, and really trust, it really, really made me feel safe, and like really developed the trust that I needed in order to make the new musical, you know? So I think that that really helped that process too.
Thank you so much for your question. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us here at AOL Build.
Yay!
It was so great to catch up with you. For everyone watching at home, be sure to catch Ashley on Broadway in Mean Girls. Tickets available now. Until next time, I'm Tyler, reminding you to get excited for Tonys this week.
Woo, woo.
Woo!